Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my recipe for making my barbecue chicken. I am a gym rat and I have to eat a lot of chicken, and I also have to make sure that whatever I'm eating tastes good. So I'm going to show you how I made it. So the first thing you want to do is to actually boil the chicken, and you can do this by seasoning it when it's raw with any chicken spices of your choice. It doesn't necessarily have to be chicken, but whatever chicken or whatever spices you use to season your chicken, you can use that to season the chicken. So examples of this would be Maggi, no, and those are Nigerian spices, right? You can see the container of no that's right there. You can find that in any local Walmart. That's also good. You can use curry, you can use thyme, you can add paprika, and most importantly, you have to add onions. Now, whatever you do with the chicken broth or the chicken stock afterwards is up to you. But here in this video, I was removing all the chicken from the pot so that the chicken stock or the chicken broth would come off of the chicken, because I didn't want to do the rest of the recipe with the chicken being wet. So I put everything in a sieve or into a colander, and I put a bowl below it so that the bowl would be able to catch every liquid that's coming out of it. And then I let it sit for about 4 to 5 minutes before I proceeded with the next step. The next thing we're going to do is prep the chicken for the oven. So I like to use a lot of barbecue sauce because I mean it goes without saying this is barbecue chicken. And I also tend to put other sauces in there, but that just depends on you. I'm not particular about any brand whatsoever because to me barbecue sauce is barbecue sauce. But if you have a particular brand that you prefer, then I'd suggest you go with that. So today I was just using the brand that we had. That was what we had, so that's what I was using. Occasionally I would add something like the sweet onion teriyaki sauce from Subway. They sell that in Walmart as well. Sometimes I would add the Chick-fil-A sauce. You can also find that in Walmart. And the second thing I added here was I can't remember what it was, but we bought it from this Mexican store. If I find the name, I'm going to put it on the screen, but that's what I'm opening right there, and that's what I'm also putting into the barbecue sauce. So it was my first time trying it, but I felt like it was going to look good. So I was curious and I really wanted to try it, and actually turned out well. So if you're going to do this for the first time, I suggest that you don't be too adventurous, because you want to know what each of those things taste like before you actually put them into what you're going to eat. And that's me tasting it there. Another thing you also need to keep in mind is the proportions. So I put a ton of barbecue sauce, but for this one, this was I think a salsa sauce or something like that. I didn't put too much because I didn't want it to overwhelm the barbecue sauce or overwhelm the chicken. So I just put a little and I kept tasting it, and I stopped when I had enough. So other things I like to also put inside. I know I'm an Igbo girl, okay? I love crayfish. So that's crayfish that you're seeing me put into the barbecue sauce mix right there. I didn't put too much because I didn't want the chicken to taste like crayfish, but I like that tinge of crayfish taste when you're eating food. I really love that. So another thing I put into the sauce mix was a lot of pepper. So I used black pepper and I used chili pepper. Black pepper is also Cameroon pepper. As in this pepper I'm using right here is Cameroon pepper. So if you are somebody who doesn't really like pepper, you can go ahead and skip this part. Or if you don't like your food to be too spicy or too hot, you don't need to put any peppers at all. But I love spicy and peppery food, so that's what I'm doing. The next thing you want to do is stir or mix all your spices or all your concoctions together to make sure that each of them blends perfectly well into each other. And you also want to be very careful with adding too many things, because you still want the barbecue sauce to be the dominant flavor, right? So for instance, if I added crayfish and peppers and all those things, I'm not going to add too much because I don't want it to overwhelm or overtake the barbecue sauce, because that goes against the entire thing. Now, what you see me putting here is just a blend of bell peppers, tomatoes, and onions, and also peppers. So I only added this because we had it sitting in the fridge. It's just nothing. So you don't need to add that if you don't need it. But I personally really like food that's spicy, so I just threw that in there. The next step here is to actually throw the raw chicken into the barbecue sauce mix, and I'm just doing it a couple at a time because I didn't want to throw every single thing in there. I wanted to take my time to make sure that the barbecue sauce was evenly distributed across each of the chickens, and it was a lot. Like we actually had a lot to cook that day. So I'm just going to keep stirring and turning and stirring and turning and just making sure that it touches every part of it. Because one thing I don't like with food is when one part is bland and then the other part is spicy. It's not very appealing to the mouth. So you want to make sure that you turn it as much as possible. And also it just depends on how much you actually like it. If you like the barbecue sauce to be like very overwhelming, you can do that. If you don't, then you don't have to go through all of that. The next thing I'm going to do is to oil the pan or the pans that I'm going to throw into the oven, right? And you can use your fingers to do this, but it's kind of messy when you do that. So it's easier to just use this kitchen tool, this kitchen instrument to make sure that the oil touches all corners. And you don't want to put too much of the oil on it, okay? We just need just a little to lubricate it. So now I'm going to put each of all the chickens on the pan. This is just one set. I still had another one, but I'm not going to show you guys all of that because I want this video to be super quick and easy and fast. Another thing to keep in mind is that you don't want too much of the barbecue sauce to be dripping on the pan or into the pan or into the oil because it just kind of makes it messy. It's harder for you to clean or to wash. So that's why I make it my point of duty to make sure that all the chickens are properly coated. Okay, they need to be properly coated. Something my mom used to do when she would do this, because this was actually a recipe I learned from my mom. She would put the chicken into the barbecue sauce and then sprinkle some Cameroon pepper on top of it, so that way it would come out like really really spicy and it used to taste so good. So if you have any spices that are native to maybe your country or your tribe or your ethnic group or whatever it is, you can also use them. You don't need to stick to this recipe like verbatim, right? It just depends on what works for you and it depends on what you have. So far, this is what we have. I'm going to show you what it looks like up close. I haven't put it in the oven just yet. I like to cook these on super low heat so that they don't get burnt and so that the oven actually takes its time to cook the chicken properly, because that's what you want to do. You need to have a lot of patience if you're cooking this, okay? This is all the chicken we cooked that day. I know I said it was a lot, but now in hindsight, I don't think it was that much. So I threw it into the oven. If you're in America, I usually cook this on 350 or 400 degrees Fahrenheit for the oven. I'm not sure what that converts to in Celsius in Nigeria. Another thing to keep in mind is that you need to flip the chicken, okay? You need to turn it so that the heat touches every part of it. Now, this is what the finished work looks like. I don't like it to be too crispy. I don't like chicken that's crispy. I like it to still be soft, but still maintain some kind of sturdiness. So that's the recipe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.